Hey everybody, and welcome to the council. I'm that crypto chick, and I'm joined with the Block Magi and Crypto Insider X. Today we're going to talk about a project that isn't really that well known. It's a little bit under the radar. I think up to this date, most of the projects we've covered are very well hyped, known in the crypto space. But this is one that we heard about and we thought it was kind of interesting. It's called Dispatch Labs. Their tagline is "Blockchain is going mainstream, and Dispatch Labs is building the architecture to take it there." Black Magi, why don't you let us know what you know about this project?
Dispatch Labs is the project out of the west coast of the USA. They're actually based in like the hub of old, kind of like, well, I say old, probably new technology. San Francisco, the whole Silicon Valley thing. They have a unique proposition in the sense that they're looking at something that others are looking at, but in a different way. So they're looking at solutions for the evolution of blockchain. And so we look at projects like this, and they don't actually base themselves as using a blockchain. They really take it back to, say, distributed ledger technologies. We've looked at a few of these, and the way in which Dispatch Labs are kind of different is because of their location and the access that they have to projects that want to come onto the blockchain. Now, they're basically a DAG-based system, utilizing a type of delegated kind of POS system, which a few other companies have used. But most of the ones that we've seen that are looking for this blockchain 3.0 kind solution, most of those have come from a different territory. Most of those actually come from the East. And so we're looking at South Korea being a massive hub for that. This is one of the early ones that we're seeing that's based in the US. And more than just being based in the US, based in Silicon Valley, where we know we've got a plethora of tech heads who are chomping at the bit to get involved with blockchain.
Crypto Insider X, you heard about this project and brought this to the attention of the council. What did you hear about it, and what made you kind of interested in this project?
So like about a month ago, I was, doing what I do, and about 3 or 4 different independent sources all kind of brought up Dispatch Labs kind of like within the same 12 hours. Like one person's like, "Hey, are you, what have you heard of Dispatch Labs?" I'm like, "Oh, da 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 da." And then somebody else says, "Oh, I'm talking to so-and-so from Dispatch Labs." And I'm like, "Okay." And, when that happens enough from, sources that you respect or that you're at least, you investigate when they say these certain things. And, that's kind of how it came to me. That's kind of how we got here. And we said, okay, well, we looked at the team, which is kind of all the information we had at the time, other than, the team and what they've done. And we said, all right, well, let's talk to them and see, what they've got set up. And that's, where we are now with this interview with the Chief Technical Officer, Zane Witherspoon.
You're right. We just we started to look into it after we heard a lot of chatter about it. So we connected with Zane, and this is what he had to say about how it all started and how he got involved with Dispatch Labs.
My name is Zane Witherspoon. I'm the CTO at Dispatch Labs and founding partner at the Bureau. Also co-organizer of the San Francisco Ethereum meetup. I bought my first Bitcoins at $400 each in early 2016. And the first time it doubled, I was like, what's this blockchain tech all about? And so I dove in head first. I wrote my first Ethereum smart contracts in November 2016 and realized that was going to change the world. The idea of being able to program the logic into a distributed ledger was just like, boom, mind blown. Got really, really excited around sort of wanting to become a little bit of a thought leader in the space while it was still relatively early. Most people weren't that familiar. A lot of people were familiar with Bitcoin as a financial currency, but not a lot of people were thinking about blockchain as a tech and how it could be used for greater good kind of stuff. And so I decided to write a business academic white paper called Advancing Consumer Adoption of Blockchain Applications. that was published by Cornell University Library Archive in early 2017. I also started running the San Francisco Ethereum meetup to do community building in the San Francisco Bay Area. That was probably one of the best things I've ever done. I was really, at the time in 2016, early 2017, it was really, really hard to write smart contracts. It was brand new, so nobody had really asked a lot of questions about it yet. If you hit a bug, sometimes you were the very first person to do so. So I started working on the Happy Chain API, which was a one-click, easy deployment for common use smart contracts like ERC20s. Not to get too into the technical weeds, but I wanted to make it easy for developers to be able to develop and push this new cool tech forward. So I was running the San Francisco Ethereum meetup. We hosted events at the Soma Street Food Park. And one day, Matt McGraw and Patrick Wickstrom walked into my meetups. So it was kind of saw them as a customer at first. So I was like, oh, cool, who's your CTO? And he puts Matt in front of me, who used to be CTOs at other companies, but those days are a little bit behind him. And I asked him, so what kind of smart contracts or what kind of contracts are you using? And he looked at me and he crossed his arms and he goes, the smart kind. And I lost it. I thought that was so funny. And we laughed all night. Eventually we realized that we really wanted to be working together on something. So we met up here in his office, his warehouse that he bought about 10 years ago. That really, really cool space. He was retired. He had sold his last company. He had invested in Patrick's company. And we were sort of trying to figure out what we could do to work together. We started thinking, because I'm an artist in the space. I create music and I perform. And Matt has a bunch of artist friends. We started thinking that it would be really cool to make like a decentralized iTunes in this peer-to-peer world, so that I, as an artist, could sell directly to my fans without having to go through middleman like Apple or Amazon or Spotify. Takes more than 30% of the profits every time, up to like 90%. And we got really excited about being able to help artists make a living off of their creativity. So the artist could make more, the consumer could pay less. It was going to be a win-win across the board. And we got really excited. We strapped up. We're like, all right, let's do this. Then we looked around at the technology and realized we can't yet. There was no protocols that could handle the amount of data it would take to move a movie around or even a high-quality picture around on chain. So then we realized, wait a minute, this is a major pain point. Not just for people in the media industry wanting to use blockchain, but people in all of the data intensive industries like IoT or AI, artificial intelligence, machine learning, or even the health industry with electronic medical records. So we decided to take a step back and look at the protocol layer to enable all of these new distributed applications to be built. Sort of at the same time as we were getting things going, Matt and Patrick have a background in sort of enterprise consulting. And they're like, oh, well, we figured out how to do this whole blockchain startup thing. Why don't we teach other people how to do it too? And they wanted to open up a consulting service called The Bureau. And I was so against it at first. I was like, you guys are crazy. This is a terrible idea. You have any idea how hard it is to start one company and you guys want to try and start two? And it turns out I could not have been more wrong. Right now, they're both totally self-sustaining operations, and the Bureau has turned into such an amazing funnel of projects and services to be built with the Dispatch protocol. So feel super, super grateful to be able to work with these guys. I feel like they've sort of taken me under their wing, and I just could not be happier about it.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about Zane, because I will say the one thing that I noticed instantly was how young he is. And a lot of the other projects where we've had interviews with key people, they tend to be a little bit older. And at first, I have to be honest, I thought, this is he capable of kind of pulling off a project of this magnitude? Block Magi, what are your thoughts? Because after talking to him and hearing a little bit more of his history, is this a project that he's capable of, fulfilling the objectives of?
It's interesting, isn't it? Because you look at, when you first see somebody like Zane, you're looking, you're thinking, okay, what are you actually bringing to the table here? What's your background? And it's very easy for us to turn around and go, yeah, he's young. He doesn't have lots of, he won't have many years with this, but for his young years, he's done quite a lot. Zane's he's the guy who actually set up the San Francisco Ethereum meetups, and he's been running that for over a year, bringing new developers in, discussing ideas. He started off learning to, firstly investing in the space, and then decided to learn to write smart contracts for himself. And he actually ended up with having a paper which was published for Cornell. Now, you look at this guy and you see his desire and what he actually hopes to achieve and what he has achieved already. And you're like, okay. Then you start to wake up. You start thinking, right, yeah, he has something. And you can see every step of the way, he's managed to make sure he involves himself in the right communities, but also with right teams in terms of investors, in terms of developers as well. And he's continually succeeding. And so, I think he's somebody who could easily become one of the bright stars in this space. And so, yeah, I've got, he's very convincing. He knows, he has the knowledge. There's not, you ask him any question about his projects and he can answer you. And that's something you want to see. So, yeah, I fully think that there's a great opportunity for these guys to really bring something to the fore. And so, yeah, I think the future looks really, really good for them.
I definitely agree. I think Zane was. I was really impressed when we talked to him. Totally, I think Block Magi. You always ask tough questions when they were in these interviews. You always ask technical questions, and I don't think he batted an eye on anything. His answers were very clear. He had a good understanding of the technology behind it, and it brought a lot of confidence to me, at least, for the future of this project. But obviously, there's a bigger team than just him. Crypto Insider X, what do we know about, maybe some of the other players that are behind Dispatch Labs?
Well, before I get into that, I just want to say that I don't support any of this ageism that's going on in here. I was in no way shaken by Zane's youthful Friday night television from the 80s look.
That's because Crypto Insider X is the baby of the group, of the three of us. That's why.
That might be it. I might be biased. As a team with Dispatch Labs, I think it does. There still is some mystery there. We'll have to see exactly what they bring and at what level it can be done. So right now, I would say optimistic about where the team can go and what they can do, but there still remains a lot to be seen.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a little bit more information I'd want to know about the team. I think that talking to Zane was great, but again, he's just one member, and obviously a key member is the chief technical officer. But they have big aspirations. They're looking to help blockchain go mainstream. So. We want to kind of figure out what and how Dispatch fits into this whole, blockchain going mainstream. So here's what Zane had to say.
We use the word blockchain because that's the word that people understand. It fits into the broader category of distributed ledger, but really we function a little bit more like a gossip protocol. And the idea of the third generation blockchain is one that we sort of stand behind. That absolutely is sort of the evolution, and it helps us understand the history of how we've gotten to where we are and why we're solving the problems that we are. So in terms of adoption, mainstream adoption on both the consumer front and the developer side, on the consumer side, mainstream adoption doesn't mean that Dispatch becomes a household name. It means that projects that are built on Dispatch become household names. Like Amazon Web Services is actually the back end for most of the internet today, but most consumers haven't heard of Amazon Web Services. But you probably have heard of the many websites built on it. We're sort of going for the same thing. We're the back end architecture for people to build applications and websites on. And that means going mainstream with developers, though. There's not a developer out there that doesn't know what AWS is, and there shouldn't be a developer out there that doesn't know what Dispatch is. One of the big advantages we have to not starting from scratch on that front is because we're built to be backwards compatible with Ethereum smart contracts. So having run the San Francisco Ethereum meetup for a while, I've been able to see firsthand exactly how Ethereum has captured developer mindshare in the blockchain space. And what we're doing, what we're building, is built to be backwards compatible with the Ethereum virtual machine. So we want people who've already learned or already started developing on Ethereum to be able to take those skills and apply them to be able to do something bigger and more, with more functionality, more features, more scalability, all that goodness. And that's sort of playing into the whole third generation architecture. People are sort of seeing some of the issues with Ethereum, whether that be transaction fees, which we don't have, or whether that's actual transactions per second scalability, or whether that's the ability to store lots and lots of data, which I think is our main point of focus. Being able to look at distributed ledger architecture as a whole provides a lot more diverse solutions to some of the problems that we're seeing with the second generation chains like Ethereum, because people are taking so many different approaches. There's lots of people who believe that the problems that we're facing with scalability in blockchains is more chains. There's side chains, there's chains of chains, plasma chains. And there's some people who think that we need to move away from chains entirely to sort of like DAG protocols is another really popular solution. And things that work with gossiping, so like more like message passing. And that's a little bit more of the approach that we're taking here. One of the things that we're doing to help the adoption of our protocol in particular is staying backwards compatible with Ethereum and their private key and their hashing mechanism to generate your public address. So your exact same private key and public address that works on Ethereum will still mean that you own the same CryptoKitties on Dispatch. So on the consumer side, we're trying to stay as compatible as we can with everything that already exists in the ecosystem, because that's pretty much where it is. Everything's sort of built for Ethereum, and there's still a lot of people building really, really valuable tech for Ethereum, but also for us, which is pretty cool. The sort of developer side of things is, I don't know how familiar, I mean, you guys are with the industry, but the audience is with the sort of myriad of different protocols being developed right now. There are so many protocols either under development or recently deployed or going to be deployed or have been out for a while. Everything from Ethereum to EOS to Stellar to Icon to Arc to Loom to this, that, and the other. So what we're seeing in the industry is a little bit of race for that developer mindshare. A couple of the advantages we have, besides being backwards compatible with Ethereum and already having that developer community sort of locked in the bag, is that we've got this sort of parallel organization called the Bureau that I mentioned briefly at the beginning of this, that sort of offers services kind of comparable to how Ethereum has consensus. Ethereum is the open source protocol that develops Ether, the cryptocurrency, and consensus is this organization that develops tools and supports the ecosystem around it. So when it comes to actually capturing the mindshare and growing the community, a lot of that's going to come down to the Bureau and the Bureau's clients and making sure that everybody who's building on a Dispatch feels that they're heard, especially so early on, including being able to take their feedback and sort of integrate it into the protocol. So we've sort of got a multi-pronged approach there. So we're addressing developer concerns on the tech side and the community side and sort of the business side too.
He talks about the Bureau. Take us through kind of how the Bureau fits in. Expand on that for us, Block Magi.
Well, the Bureau is like, it's kind of, as he said, he mentioned consensus and how consensus works with Ethereum. And the Bureau is kind of like consensus for Dispatch Labs. What they actually aim to do is actually integrate with developers who are building on the Dispatch Labs network and utilizing their protocol, and be able to actually make changes into the protocol to actually aid developers and also customers in terms of companies who are looking for a way to either reverse ICO or come into blockchain. And so they'll be going out making tools available to be integrated and used with the Dispatch Labs network.
So the big thing that we're hearing in a lot of projects is wanting to deal with the scalability issue that blockchain will face at some point. So here's a little bit of information on Dispatch Labs and their approach to the scalability issues.
Everybody's got their own solution to scalability. A lot of people are trying to append solutions to scalability onto the ends of existing chains. We're going for a more fundamental at the core change to scalability with a brand new consensus algorithm. So on a high level with our consensus algorithm, DAPO stands for Delegated Asynchronous Proof of Stake. It sort of takes a lot of inspiration from delegated proof of stake being used by BitShares and Steemit and EOS, which is this idea, it plays off this idea that there's an inherent trade-off between decentralization and scalability, in the idea that if I like a post on Facebook and Facebook is centralized, then there's just one communication there, me telling Facebook I like the post, versus in a peer-to-peer network where I want everybody to see the like. When I click like, that message needs to get to everybody. So the more decentralized it is, the more traffic it takes to try and make it work. So both DAPOS and DPoS sort of play off that idea by quasi re-centralizing it, but still leaving the community in control. The idea is that we get to, as stakeholders, people who own some stake in the network, get to elect our delegates who are doing the gossiping and the communications of those transactions for us. So instead of like in Bitcoin or Ethereum, where every block needs to hit every single node for it to be considered good, or instead of Facebook, where you just get the one point of communication, and if Facebook doesn't like your like, then too bad, you lost your chance. We take sort of hybrid approach. So the community is still in charge of what gets to go in, but by electing the right people. What I like about gossip protocols is that all of a sudden the bottleneck doesn't become the algorithm. The bottleneck becomes how fast the delegates can actually pass these messages back and forth and read their messages. So that means that as the delegates get faster and as hardware gets better, that means we could actually see the transactions per second scalability of the network increase over time, which I think is a really, really fun idea. It gives us room to grow, so to speak. And because we're backwards compatible with Ethereum, that means that all these scalability solutions that people are appending onto Ethereum, like sidechains, should still work on the Dispatch network. So we've sort of got a backup in the pocket too, you know?
We've heard Zane talk about backwards compatible with Ethereum. Why is that so important?
The reason why that's important is because there's quite a few projects actually available now. And if you're looking at a platform which is trying to provide a solution for the evolution of this kind of technologies, you also need to be able to be useful or be able to be used by dApps and projects which have been created in older versions of blockchain technology. And so, and by doing that, it opens up your scope. It means that you can have not just new projects come onto you, but you have older projects which may have been created using Ethereum for Ethereum-based apps. They can actually migrate to you as well, and maybe that some of the problems that they're facing as their project actually grows by being on, let's say, an Ethereum network, may be resolved by coming over to you, because the basis of your solution actually solves some of the problems that Ethereum itself has been facing.
Well, let's find out a little bit more about how it will work with regards to integration with the Ethereum virtual machine. And here's Zane to tell us a little bit more on that.
Dispatch, as our CEO, Matt McGraw, likes to put it, presents this sort of vertically integrated data lifecycle solution in this like beautiful little package. He compares this all the time to the Apple of blockchains. The simple idea is that Ethereum virtual machine runs on opcodes, and we're essentially adding more of them and pulling them apart from the getting it into the chain versus actually running it on the data. So that means if I want to update my own medical records, if I want to update my home address on my medical records, for example, I can submit that transaction on chain, and then my doctors who have access to it in the off-chain network can take that transaction, sort of execute it against their own data to make sure that everybody's simpatico.
Okay, so I have a question about this because I need to understand this. Take us through off-chain and on-chain, and why is that relevant? Because I know everybody talks about that, but what's the importance of that?
Okay, so you have two different systems. You have off-chain and you have on-chain. Off-chain basically refers to the movement of values or transactions which occur outside of the blockchain. So this could be information that's stored on databases that the company already has, whereas on-chain would be transactions which are done on the actual blockchain itself. Now, what Dispatch Labs are trying to do, what they're offering is a solution whereby they're leveraging off-chain data with on-chain blockchain activity. And that's, and that really is the core of the marriage between the off-chain data and on-chain data in Dispatch Labs' eyes.
Well, and to continue that train of thought, we actually asked kind of what kind of use cases for Dispatch Labs, and this is what Zane had to say.
I do get really excited about enabling this technology that can do so much good in the world. And in particular, I think that AI projects that are built on Dispatch will absolutely revolutionize how we think about data. Whereas right now, most AI takes a lot of data to train. Just like we growing up, we need a lot of stimuli to be able to learn things. Computers are the exact same way. So we need to be able to give them lots of data. And for example, self-driving car data lives right now in walled gardens where Google's not going to share their self-driving car data, neither is Tesla, and neither is Uber. But as we're thinking about things in this peer-to-peer ecosystem, if more AI projects are built to store their data on Dispatch, then that means that instead of having to go through a middleman like Uber or Google or Tesla, you can sort of just ask the car itself or the owner of the car for access to that data. And all of a sudden, with everybody cooperating in that way, we can achieve real safe, realistic, usable AI so much sooner than we could without it. So one of the really good things in the world that I see our project being able to do, that I actually do see the roadmap of A to B to C, is being able to provide cheap to free health diagnostic care to the Philippines or to India or to somewhere else in the world that wouldn't really have access to it otherwise. So I'm really, really excited to see the implications of like this greater AI plus blockchain world. We're so early in this new technology that it's hard to say. There's no way anyone could have guessed when the internet was coming out that the killer application, or when iPhone was coming out, that the killer application was going to be ride sharing. There's no way anybody, when the internet came out, that in a few years they're going to be using it to rent out rooms in their home. So it's really hard to project what the really big killer ones are going to be. But there are ones that I'm excited to see happen, and I've touched on most of those, I think. We're getting pretty close. We have a testnet alpha out already. So if you go to wallet.dispatchlabs.io and hop on our Discord channel, you can actually set up a wallet, and we'll send you some test tokens to play around on. You can see Dappos out there running in the wild. Our testnet beta with the first version of our virtual machine and smart contract functionality is done development. It's going through QA, quality assurance right now, to make sure that it doesn't have any bugs before we release our testnet beta pretty soon here. And I think I'm allowed to say that we would still like to do a public sale following or in conjunction with our mainnet launch late Q3, early Q4.
We see a lot of these projects out there that are dealing with these same issues, the same issues about scalability. What makes Dispatch Labs different?
Okay, well, for me, the thing that stands out with Dispatch Labs is one of the real wants is to engage with both the user community, companies, and engage with the developer community to provide a whole system that will grow, to provide something that's going to help move companies from where they are right now, using old tech, to take them to the next century. I think it's the way in which they're going about doing it is unique. It's welcomed. It's something. It's a system that will only thrive with the input from both of these communities, not just Dispatch Labs, because Dispatch Labs will only get better by listening, and this is what they're saying they're going to do: listening to the wants of the developer community, and also the people who actually end up using products on their platform.
So, Crypto Insider X, we kind of talked off the top of the show, the episode, I should say, about the fact that this was kind of under the radar. Not a lot of people know about it. I don't know what it takes to get to that kind of hype level of a Phantom or a Quark chain. I'd be interesting to know what you think it would take for a project like this to kind of garner the interest of the masses.
I mean, most of those projects, it actually doesn't take a lot because of the nature of the crypto space. And in crypto, you have a couple leaders, if you want to call them that, influencers, who when they say something, the masses will follow. So what would it take for Dispatch Labs to become extremely sought after project? Something that I say not like an organically type of movement. It would just take Superman or Ian Bellina to say Dispatch Labs is my top one of the month or whatever. And that's as easy as it would be. In a more organic way, it would just really take a community that grows quickly, to be honest, and some nice numbers maybe in the token metrics. There's a lot of time. As of this video recording, there's 5,046 members in the Dispatch Labs official Telegram. So let's see where that goes between now and months from now. But if that were to happen, it would be difficult for almost anything to pick up traction.
I'm actually glad we did talk to Dispatch Labs, because I think it's interesting to kind of get a look at a project that is so early on, compared to the, let's say the One Ledgers or the Phantoms or the Eden Chain. So it was a great chat with Zane. I definitely think we'll be keeping an eye on this one to see how things progress in the coming months. Yeah, remember everybody, this is just our opinions and our thoughts on a project. Do your own research. Don't forget to like and subscribe our channel, and we'll see you next time. We are the council.